Hey guys, it's Kesara, and today we're going to be talking about the worst nonfiction books that I've read in the past year. I apologize if you can hear the rain outside right now. It is super loud. This video, I'm going to be talking about nonfiction books, specifically the worst nonfiction books that I've read in the past year. I've gotten really into nonfiction since like about October of last year. In the past, more self-help finance related books, I thought they were really interesting, but I have moved on a bit since then, more into like health related books and specifically psychology. I find psychology related books super interesting. So those are kind of like the areas we're going to be talking about. But if I'm going to be honest, most of the books in this video are not that bad. There was actually really just one book in particular that made me want to make this video, but the other books are in here for a reason as well. So the last book, absolutely the reason why I made this video, but the other books I didn't enjoy either. So the first book that I want to talk about is Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. And the main reason that I wanted to talk about this book first is because this is the first book that I kind of picked up when I started getting interested in like learning more about psychology and those sort of things. So I thought this book would be a good place to start because emotional intelligence is something that's really important. It started off really strong trying to sell me on the book and sell me on the ideas of the book by like saying how many awards it's won and how many like accomplishments it has and all of those things, but like didn't actually get into like what it was actually talking about until later in the book. And then I felt like everything I learned in the book I kind of already knew just from other like trainings and things that I've gone through. So it just felt a little bit shallow and it spent more time trying to sell me on the theories and ideas than actually explaining them. While I do think this is an important topic and an important subject to learn more about, I did feel like there's just more in depth this book could have gone that it just did not go. The next book I want to talk about is Attached by Amir Levine. So this book, I feel like it's not that bad. It's just very basic. Like I have never taken a psychology course, but I know the general like attachment theory and all of that. And I feel like this book doesn't really give me much more than that. It's also kind of my fault that I didn't like this because I thought this was going to be talking about, specifically I was interested in like childhood development and that like side of it, and this is about dating and attachment styles in dating, which is fine. Like I think I did learn a little bit on that front, but wasn't what I was looking for. The overall like the theory of attachment, it didn't really go too much into it. It felt more like a self-help book rather than a book about psychology, which just didn't really work for me. So the next book I want to talk about is Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. This book is super popular and I don't really get it. I think part of it is that I read Big Magic first, which Big Magic is Elizabeth Gilbert's other nonfiction, and I feel like they have like the same topics in them, and Big Magic actually talks a lot about Eat, Pray, Love, which is why I decided to pick up Eat, Pray, Love, expecting it to have more in it, but I felt like it just went over the same things that Big Magic had gone over, and Eat, Pray, Love was not as interesting in my opinion, probably because I read it second. Honestly, if you read one of them, you don't really have to read the other one. I don't understand the hype for Eat, Pray, Love at all. Like it did not resonate with me. In Eat, Pray, Love, it's a little bit of a different nonfiction. Like it's following the author where she travels to like 3 different countries and like what she learned in those countries. When she goes to Italy, she learns how to eat pasta mainly, and then she goes to India and learns how to pray, and then she goes to, I think it's Bali. It's some tropical island, and she like finds her future husband there basically. But like, I don't know. I just felt like it wasn't that useful to me. And the next one I want to talk about is The 48 Rules for Power by Robert Greene. So this book was actually a DNF. I do plan to come back to it. The reason why I didn't like it had nothing to do with the content. I mean, a little bit to do with the content, but mostly to do with the writing style. The writing style was just so cynical. Like it was very, I don't know, like Machiavellian, if that makes sense. It almost felt like the author was playing like devil's advocate, but like in a way where like morals just had like zero place in this book, which normally things like that don't bother me. I'm very much a grimdark fantasy reader, so I love like morally ambiguous characters, but this is like a nonfiction book, but it's just like it went complete dark side, I feel like. And I know it's about power and things like that, and like absolute power corrupts absolutely and all of of that. But I don't know, I feel like the tone of this book just went a little too far that I had to put it down. I do plan on picking it up again at some point because I do think it has good information that could be really interesting to learn about, but I just really did not like the tone of this book whatsoever. And the last book that I want to talk about, and the reason I decided to do this video, is because of the 12 Rules for Life by Jordan B. Peterson. I really wish I had known something about this book before going into it, because I did not know anything about this book. It was just one of those books in my library that a lot of people have read and liked, so I was like, you know what, let me read it. It should be fine. It starts off with this very like objective tone. Like the author definitely wants to portray himself as super objective, like talks about how he was on Quora and he took a lot of this from like the most upvoted, or like basically like by populace, like what people think is true, and these are like the 12 rules for life based off of like popular opinion. And I thought that was kind of like a cool way of doing things. I thought it would be interesting to see like basically if you actually like got all of these diverse opinions together and then see what actually like bubbles to the top as the most important things, the most important lessons to have in life. But then it starts off by quoting the Bible, which like I feel like should have been a red flag for me, that maybe how the author is portraying himself is not actually what this book is gonna do. But I kept reading on. Like I didn't look up the author or anything like that. I just kept reading on, and then where it lost me is when it started talking about boys and girls on the playground and how like if a girl gets into the game, it's not good for the boy anymore, because the boy, if he wins, then he just won against the girl, and if he loses, then he lost against the girl. So it's like a no-win situation for the boy, which I mean is whatever. Like it's kids with kids, and it's sports specifically that it's referring to, which men are physically, like their bodies are physically stronger than women. Like there's like a biological reason for that, but it takes that metaphor and then applies it to something like higher education, which is where they lost me, because the logic might work for children on a playground, but it shouldn't also translate to men and women in college. Like that's completely where it lost me. It was like, just because more women go to college doesn't mean that now it's a women's game and that men going to college and getting a degree is completely worthless now. The logic does not translate, because the underlying reason that it actually sort of works for the playground theory is because of biological constraints that don't translate to collegiate degrees, if that makes sense. So like that just threw me off completely. So like it took me a while, like I'm saying like months and months and months of trying to figure out why that particular thing made me stop reading this book. But that's what I ended up coming up with, is that just the logical inconsistencies there. I was not expecting this book to be as sexist as it is, but it definitely is. And then I heard someone talking about it the other day and I was like, oh, okay, I should have known that going into it. But like I'm one of those people, like I like to give all books a chance regardless of the author's opinions. But I guess when it comes to nonfiction books, I gotta be a little bit more picky, because like with fiction books, especially ones that don't deal with themes a lot, usually the author's like own opinions don't necessarily get into the book, like I said, unless it's dealing with like heavy themes. Whereas with nonfiction, a lot of times it's about the author's life and it's about the author's beliefs. So I feel like this book has made me want to spend a little bit more time like actually researching people and their opinions before picking up their books, at least the nonfiction ones. So that is all I have. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel, and I have a ton of videos planned for the next few months, so please consider subscribing. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.